Constituting himself judge and jury, he began by trying his own case. He admitted that he was not an innocent man unjustly punished. He had committed an excessive and blameworthy act. The loaf of bread might not have been refused him if he had asked for it, and in any event, it would have been better to wait, either for charity or for work. The argument, "Can a man wait when he is half starved?" was not unanswerable, for the fact is that very few people literally die of hunger. Man is so constituted that he can endure long periods of suffering, both moral and physical, without dying of it. He should have had patience, and this would have been better even for the children. To attempt to take society by the throat, vulnerable creature that he was, and to suppose that he could escape from poverty through theft, had been an act of folly. In any case, the road leading to infamy was a bad road of escape. He admitted all this, in short, that he had done wrong. But then he asked questions. Was he the only one at fault in this fateful business? Was it not a serious matter that a man willing to work should have been without work and without food? And admitting the offense, had not the punishment been ferocious and outrageous? Was not the law more at fault in the penalty it inflicted than he had been in the crime he committed? Had not the scales of justice been overweighted on the side of expiation? And did not this weighing of the scales, far from effacing the crime, produce a quite different result, namely, a reversal of the situation, substituting for the original crime the crime of oppression, making the criminal a victim and the law his debtor, transferring justice to the side of him who had offended against it? Did not the penalty, aggravated by his attempts to escape, become in the end a sort of assault by the stronger on the weaker, a crime committed by society against the individual, and repeated daily for 19 years? He asked himself whether human society had the right to impose upon its members, on the one hand, its mindless improvidence, and on the other hand, its merciless providence, to grind a poor man between the millstones of need and excess. Need for work and excess of punishment. Was it not monstrous that society should treat in this fashion precisely those least favored in the distribution of wealth, which is a matter of chance, and therefore those most needing indulgence? He asked these questions, and, having answered them, passed judgment on society. He condemned it to his hatred. That is from this book, Les Mis, or Les Miserables, by Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo's most famous novel. Victor Hugo, very famous French writer, also wrote a bunch of other novels that you might have heard of. Hunchback of Notre Dame, Toilers of the Sea, a few others. But this is definitely his most famous, if only because of the musical. I bet you were worried I was going to start off singing. I wouldn't do that to you guys. That would be cruel. So that'd be even crueler than what happens to Jean Valjean in this story. So this story is about Jean Valjean, who is a guy who stole a loaf of bread to help his sister from starving to death, to keep his sister from starving to death. And he ended up serving 19 years. It was 19 years, right? Yeah, it was 19 years in jail for stealing a loaf of bread to keep his sister from starving. So you can understand why he's bitter. So he spends 19 years in jail, and he's kind of hardened by this experience, as you would be. And when he gets out, he commits another petty offense, gets off for that, commits another petty offense, and then gets in real trouble and has to really run. because if he's caught for that, he'll never get out of jail, or worse. So he is being pursued in this novel by Javert, the Lieutenant Javert, the inspector, excuse me. He's a fanatical police inspector who wants nothing more than to catch Jean Valjean, who has made himself, in disguise, a respectable member of society and pretty wealthy, actually. But has to go on the run again. That is just bare bones. I mean, at one point he takes into his care a young girl, Cosette, and that's a whole storyline in itself. This book is very large and very episodic, and there's a lot going on in this book, so I'm not even going to try to cover any of the main plots or subplots or sub-subplots or all of the many episodes that happen in this, because it's, first of all, it's a fantastic book. It's incredibly entertaining. It's very emotional, actually. It's true, this is melodramatic. Lots of melodrama in this book. But still, it's terribly interesting and really a great read. For as long as it is, it's a great read. It's one of my favorite books of all time. One of the few books I've considered my favorites that I've only read once. I'm going to read it again. And I did not read it in this edition. I read it in a Signet edition. That was a complete uncut edition. I think it had more than one translator. I don't know who they might have been. The first time I became interested in this book wasn't because of this book. It was because I watched a television show that I liked a whole lot called The Fugitive. The Fugitive, about Dr. Richard Kimball, who was wrongly accused of killing his wife, who was actually killed by a mysterious one-armed man. And he is relentlessly pursued by Lieutenant Gerard. Lieutenant Philip Gerard is relentlessly pursuing our innocent fugitive all across everywhere for 4 years. And he was a great character, and he was based off of Javert from this book. He was deliberately based off that character. In fact, there were a few things in this television show that were based off this book. And so when I learned that, of course, I was a lot more interested in reading this. Because I watched this all the time when I was a kid. This was one of those shows that they reran all the time. And I thought this was a great show. It is a great show. You should watch that show. And you should also read this book. Now, there's a couple things I should mention about this particular book. I wanted to get, I think when I did my video, my 20 favorite books of all time or something, I pulled out my tattered copy of Les Mis. And after that, I got to thinking about, I needed to get a good copy of Les Mis, so I did. But I didn't realize at the time that this was not the translation that I thought it was. Penguin does make, or did at one time, I don't know that they do anymore actually, they did have a translation that was complete and unedited, unabridged. That is not this. This is actually an older translation than that. This is a translation by Norman Denny. I think this is an older translation from the 70s. Yeah, this was a translation from the 70s. And the thing about this translation is that it is edited by the translator. He sort of felt like it was his job, he says in his translator's introduction, to do that. Famously, this novel has a few digressions, and there were a couple long digressions in this novel that have nothing to do with the story at all. And the two longer ones that happen in this book, he took out of the body of the novel, and he made them into appendices at the end. So you can still read them, but they're at the end of the book, which you can do because they don't have anything to do with the actual story. At the same time, I don't really approve of that kind of thing. I think if an author writes a book, puts a book out, the way the author wants it to be, that's the way it should be. I think if you're going to read a book, it should be as close to, I know this is a translation, but you want to get as close to the author's intentions as you can. Even if they don't seem to make any sense, which, frankly, a couple of the digressions in here, they're not like Herodotus where the digressions made sense and there was a reason they were there. There are a couple in here that you're like, okay, why are you telling me about this for page after page after page? I mean, is it necessary? It's not. But that's what Victor Hugo wanted, apparently. And so that's all that stuff was in this book. So to move it out and lightly edit it, and it is pretty lightly edited from what I can tell. I don't know. That's an abridgment. And so I wanted an unabridged version, which this is not. So know that if you see this fancy pants edition and say, man, that looks pretty good, I want to get that. Just know that. I have to see if there's a copy of this that is a nice edition that is unedited. Or unabridged, I should say. And I needed to find a nice unabridged version of this. Because as nice as this is, it is abridged. Lightly abridged, but it's abridged. So I need to find one. Won't be able to buy it for a while because I'm on this book ban. I've got like 90 more books I have to read that I own before I could buy anything new. It's really lame, but one day I will get that. That said, you could read this book and you will get the story perfectly well. Like I said, it seems to be a light abridgment, and the things that were taken out, I have to agree, were not necessary. So it's up to you if you want to get this one or not. Me, I'm such a stickler that I would want to get the unabridged text, which is what I read the first time, and I loved it. So there you go. But yeah, that's me yammering on about Les Mis. It's a fantastic book. You might wonder, is it worth my time to read this whole thing? Oh, yes, it is. It's one of those books that is just really, really good, tells a really great story. Like I said, does go off on tangents now and then. It is very melodramatic. It's extremely episodic, but I like that. It works well for this book. There are some really emotional moments in this book. I really ended up loving the characters in this book. And I was really concerned at times about the characters in this book and the situations in this story. Really loved it. So yeah, that's the Sunday Penguin for today. And The Fugitive. Watch the show because it's awesome. So there you go. I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Monday. And so it is it's the Robert E. Howard Show tomorrow. Don't want to miss the Robert E. Howard Show. And then on Tuesday, the books that time forgot. And Comic Book Wednesday coming up after that. It's just a whole bunch of thrills coming up here on this exciting channel. I will catch you next time.